Welcome to our very first SolveTank. Here we are, the regular Solve team, the SaaSOps Live virtual event this week with a very special new format where we, the collection of seasoned SaaSOps professionals, are going to get a demo from a vendor, and then we're going to ask them questions as a group, investigate the product, the service, and then we're going to hypothetically evaluate it and sort of say whether we could use it, whether we would use it in our organization, assuming we're not tied to our own company, that we're sort of out on the market, just thinking of a solution for any company. So today we are very, very happy to welcome two guys from Spin.ai. So we have Dan and David, who are going to be with us for the next 40 minutes. And we'll kick it right over to you guys, as obviously people can see the regular faces of who we have on our episode today: Dominic, Chris, Jared, Marcus, Alex, and then Michael and myself, Colin McCarthy. So Dan, we'll give you any presenter controls that might be needed. Michael might need to allow you to share your screen, or David, and then give us a demo. Tell us about Spin.ai.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you guys so much for having us on today. So kind of how we're going to split this up is I'll run through a couple slides, just a little background on what Spin is and who we are, what we're trying to solve in the market today. Then we'll have David run you guys through a quick demo of our UI and kind of what we're doing. If you guys could just give me sharing permissions, I'll start that up right now. Share now. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yep.
Fantastic. Thank you for the thumbs up. That always helps because we see the little blurb. So yeah, like Colin said, my name's Dan. I'm part of the mid-market enterprise team over here at Spin, and have David as well, who's kind of our head of product management and engineering. He's one of the smartest guys on our team. So that's why we brought him on here today. But just jumping right into things, a little bit about Spin. So we were founded in 2016, headquartered here in the Bay Area in Palo Alto, California. Our vision right now is to protect the world's data in the new cloud era, as more and more organizations are moving away from your traditional email, gateways and into G Suite and Office 365. We kind of see that there's some space where security is needed and those backups. Currently, we're sitting at just over 1.5 million users, and we're engaging with hundreds of businesses every single day. So a little of what we do, I kind of touched on that. So we're here to protect your data within G Suite and Office 365. So whether that's your Google Docs, your Word docs, your Gmail, your Office email, we're going to protect all of that for you. And we do that in a couple of different ways. So first, we have our security for G Suite. So that helps us, and for Office 365, excuse me. What that does, it helps us identify ransomware attacks. We actually stop them in progress, notify the admins of that attack, and actually restore any files that may have been encrypted or in any other way altered. We also have something, this is unique for our G Suite users, which is our risk assessment and policy control. So what this allows us to do, or well, you as the end user, is to actually review application and extensions for risks. We're going to use our AI tool to actually generate a risk score for each one of those applications and extensions in your ecosystem. We're also going to allow for communication between your end users and your security team for approval processes, or if they need something, some permissions allowed. And we also allow a policy engine, so we kind of automate a lot of that, so you guys don't have to go through every single application. You can actually set parameters on what's going to be allowed in and what's not. And finally, and this is kind of what we were built up on, is our backup and recovery. So we actually at this time offer a 99.99% SLA on our backup and recovery. We also do a couple of other cool things with our snapshot feature, which will actually give you the last 100 most recent snapshots of what those files look like, whether that's G Drive or in Office 365. It also includes all the metadata and hierarchy. So when you get all those back, those sharing permissions are still there, the folders are still there. We also offer a multi-cloud option. We understand that people have different preferences for different public clouds. So you can store your data in AWS, GCP, or Azure. And currently right now, we're the top rated backup solution for G Suite Marketplace. And now I threw a kind of a lot of information at you, but it's going to make a lot more sense if you guys can hand over sharing permissions to David. He'll actually run you guys through a demo of our UI and be able to answer some more technical questions if you guys have them.
All right, then I already have sharing permissions, so no worries on that. I'll just quickly share my screen. And can I get a thumbs up if you guys are able to see it? Perfect, thank you guys. So what we're looking at right now is the G Suite Spin.ai solution. So as I mentioned, we work with G Suite and Office 365, and our goal is to protect this data at all costs. This is data loss and data leak. So we're doing both security and backup because they're critically important in protecting your data. For popularity purposes, I'll show the G Suite demonstration today, but just know that we also have an Office 365 solution available as well. So we're currently looking at the dashboard, and this, I'm going to give a quick breakdown. So the data that we work with in G Suite is Gmail, Drive, shared drives, also known as team drives. You guys know that they went through a naming switch, calendars, contacts, and sites. This is the data that we deal with, and we allow our customers to choose to store their data in AWS, GCP, or Azure, which are the top 3 data cloud centers in the world. So you know it's protected. Here we have a quick summary and also a summary of our security services. So to make more sense of this, I'm actually going to dig deeper into the features themselves. And then we'll wrap up at the dashboard where everything will make sense. And I like to start off with the security solution because this is what's most important. And we have a tool here named Domain Audit, which provides administrators with full visibility of what's going on in their organization. So as you can see from this dropdown over here, we monitor for 11 different types of events, as to which user is installing applications, removing data, downloading and transferring an abnormal amount of data, sharing drive information to outside of the organization, sending credit card numbers, and the list goes on, as you guys can see. For administrators, this is very important because while G Suite is a very comprehensive tool, it's not very easy to obtain information like this, and which is why we pull the logs from G Suite and we make it into a readable format for administrators to understand what actions are being performed by their users. For example, downloading and transferring information. You can set up policies in place that detect when your users are downloading mass amounts of data to their local device. Say you have an employee who's being terminated and you see a lot of events or incidents of the download event with their name. You can come here and check it out. And from what you can see, each event or incident has multiple things associated with it. So the time that it took place, the risk level, which depends on this policies that you set up, the user, the type of event, the application which it was performed from, IP, country, city information. This is all available. And you see that a download event was correlated with Edward Wong, but you don't know what was included in that download. So clicking on it will provide you with more information. And now the administrator can see that this user has indeed downloaded 862 files. And you can go through a list of all 862 files to understand why this user was performing such an action. Another thing to watch out for, which you can't easily do from G Suite, is transferring of data, right? So you have your Google Drive and you can easily connect a different cloud with it and transfer data from one to the other. Again, if a user is being terminated or if the user is doing some suspicious activity, this is something to watch out for. So here you can see that our solution detected a transfer of data from Google Drive to multi-cloud, which is an application that allows you to connect multiple clouds together. So we have the same type of information available, and if we click on the event itself, again, we can find out what data was being transferred. We can see that 70 files were transferred in this case on May 31st at this specific time. So our goal with this tool is to collect all the information available to us, and that's important, and make it very visible for administrators to see and to take the necessary action. So since we're collecting logs, what we're also able to do is understand how files are behaving in the organization. And this is why I want to lead to our ransomware protection. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard, even in the SaaS industry, that ransomware is at an all-time high. We even heard Garmin, I'm sure you guys have seen the news reports, that even their cloud services were affected. And especially now, with work from home and just with cloud technology being adopted more frequently, ransomware attacks are being directed more in this channel. And this is something that's new, and this is something that's only going to increase because now all the critical information that companies have is stored in these services. So our goal is to provide ransomware protection for Gmail, Drive, and shared drives in G Suite, and also OneDrive Outlook, and SharePoint in Office 365. And how do we do this ransomware protection? This is what makes us key. So I'm sure you guys have heard a lot of security endpoints that provide ransomware protection based on signature detection. That is, we have the footprint of a known ransomware attack, we add it to our security solution. If this is detected, then we are able to stop it, which is a really good solution because it quickly stops a ransomware attack. Now, the only issue with that is that stops ransomware attacks that are already known, right? You can only have the footprint if you know of the ransomware attack. And that's not a solution that we wanted to go forward with because we want our ransomware protection to be adaptable, to be scalable, to be able to protect any ransomware attack, regardless of whether it's known, done in the past or not, which is why we took a different approach. So what we started doing is we started analyzing file behavior. We're looking at how file behavior is changing, how it's being modified. Is there a mass amount of files being modified? Are they being encrypted in large amounts? Are they being deleted? And we have a 24/7 state scanner in place that does just that. We're monitoring every file and how it's being used. And we have certain thresholds in place. So once we have a certain threshold passed for anomalous behavior, what we do is we take proactive action. Now, ransomware in the cloud, the only way you can encrypt or delete cloud data is if it's through a third-party application. So only if an application has access to your data, only then can it encrypt data. So once we begin detecting that an encryption is happening, once we detect that an anomaly is happening, what we do is we look for that application. We look for that app that is causing all of this anomalous behavior. And following that, we continue to revoke access to that application. Because if you're revoking access to that application, it now has no access to your data and cannot continue encrypting the data. Now, you might ask, how do we do this? Well, to install our application, you need to provide us administrative privileges. So that grants us access to be able to cut off that access. Now, going into an attack itself. So we can see that an attack was detected on April 3, 2019 at 11:05. And we see something here named recovery finished at 11:16. So the whole process took 11 minutes. Now, what is the whole process? So we detected an attack was occurring. We revoked access to the application. What do we do next? Because in the process that we were doing this, some files may have been encrypted. Since we had to wait until the threshold had passed, it could have been a couple of files that were encrypted. So in this case, there were 86. How we find that out is we make a scan of the entire G Suite organization. We find all those files that were infected. We remove them. And because we also provide backup services as well on top of all the security solutions that we do, we are able to restore a previously safe backed up version of any infected data if it has been backed up back to the user's services. So in this case, we can see 86 files that were encrypted and 86 files that were automatically recovered with Spin. And the full process, from detecting to stopping to recovering, only took 11 minutes. And in this 11 minutes, 86 files were encrypted, where if the whole process took place, it could have been thousands or terabytes of data that could have taken place. Now, another thing you might hear is people sometimes say, we have a backup solution. We get hit by ransomware, we just wipe everything, we recover everything back to our G Suite services. Well, that will work, but it's going to cause you a lot of downtime because I'm sure you guys know API limitations, recovering terabytes of data that can cause a delay of 4 to 6 days and even longer based on the types of data it is. So that's going to cause your solution or your product downtime. And our goal is to minimize downtime and any cost for any organization. So I just want to mention again that we do protect Gmail, Drive, and shared drives from ransomware attacks. And covering ransomware protection in the present, I want to talk about risk assessment as well. So ransomware protection is a good tool for taking proactive action when an attack is just detected, right? But we also want to assist organizations in stopping ransomware attacks in the future. And one of the ways that we do that is by assessing applications and extensions. Because unfortunately in the cloud, installing any application or extension, it requires the ultimate sacrifice of giving access. Do you wish to grant these permissions? Do you wish to allow this app to manage your data, to manage your Google Drive, to manage your Gmail? And while it is a necessity for us to install these apps in order to do the services that we do, we must worry about the sacrifices that we're doing. So we have a solution here that scans the entirety of G Suite, all users, and looks for any apps or extensions that are making API calls to these users and what sort of API calls they're doing. And once we are able to obtain this information, what we do is we provide a risk assessment score of these apps and extensions. So this is something you won't be able to do in G Suite because you only have a list of applications that are being connected to the organization in G Suite. But an actual assessment itself is now provided, which is why we're working with G Suite on providing these. So we have a NIST framework in place, and we also use 20 different categories to provide these assessments for organizations. And our main priority is providing administrators with visibility on what business operation risks, security risks, and compliance risks these applications may have or extensions on your organization. So again, it all starts with the scope of permissions, right? You have a Chrome extension here, and it's able to make these calls to your G Suite data. We can see here that it has access to one user, and now we want to see what risks it may pose. So we can see, for example, how many users are using the application. In this case, it's a high number. This is a very popular application. We also take a look at user ratings, developer reputation, update frequency. For security risk, we want to see if there's an SSL certificate, and have there been any known vulnerabilities. And as you can see, we also pull a full list of them and can provide them to the customer for them to figure out what vulnerabilities this application or extension has undergone. The scope of permissions, we compare it with the intended purpose of the extension, and we deem it too much or too little, depending on the amount of scope of permissions it requests. Lastly, with the compliance risk, we want to see how compliant this application is or extension. Does it have a privacy policy? Does it have any certifications? And where is the data being stored? These are very key things that each organization, when installing an application to their own data, needs to assess. Now, we provide all this information to these administrators, and what they're able to do is block the application for everyone in the organization or allow it. So what they can do is come here and block the app for everyone in their organization or for a certain number of users or OUs. And they can do the same with allowing it for everyone or for certain OUs. And this is all manual. So right now I'm showing you guys how to do all this manually. But being an administrator of a large organization, having thousands of applications, that can be too cumbersome. You don't want to sit here and go through each application. So what you can do is create security policies that can automate this entire process. So send an application to the block list, for example, to revoke access based off its score or based off its category or its name. And you can do the same for allowing the application as well. Another feature that we have for our assessment functionality is approval process. So in the case that all your users in your organization are using Google Chrome, what we're able to do is force install a Spin.ai Chrome extension to everyone. Now, in the case that you have automation that's blocking a lot of applications or extensions, and your end users, they need an application that was blocked, they can open up a ticket with their administrators through here, where they're able to chat, give their reasoning as to why they need the application, where the administrator can also come here, take a look at the score and all the factors associated with it, and take the necessary action, allowing it or not allowing it. All right, so I cannot see the chat functionality while I'm presenting. Is there any questions so far, or am I good to move forward?
I'm to unmute myself. I think you're good going forwards at the moment. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. I want to cover one more functionality piece that we have, which is data audit. And this is with regards to data sharing in the organization. And I'm sure you guys know, right, how easy it is to share data with someone with a matter of a click from Google Drive or OneDrive. And when you're managing a lot of users in your organization, it's very hard to take control of that, which is why we have this data audit visibility where these administrators are able to see all the files that are shared from their organization to outside of the organization. And we can see the name of the file here, the owner of it, who it's shared with, and what it allows us to do is cancel sharing permissions if we need to. Now, one of the things that I myself tell our customers to watch out for the most is these public on the web ones. This basically means anyone with a link can access this data. And especially if it's confidential data, this should not be in the hands of anyone outside of the organization. So with a simple click, you're able to cancel the sharing permissions of this data through Spin. And you can see even with other users, it's very important to watch out for. So well, now this is only for within when their data is shared from inside the organization to outside of the organization. Now, what you can also do is see all shared files generally, even if it's within the organization. So in case you have an executive file, let's say, who was shared with an entry-level engineer, you will be able to spot it here. And you can cancel the sharing permissions immediately upon detecting it. And again, what I'm showing you guys how to do is everything manually, because I want to show you guys how it looks, how it's done, but all of this can be automated. You can create security policies blocking your users from being able to share data outside of the organization, or even alerting you when this is being done. And lastly, another Easter egg feature that we have is credit card number detection. So we have an algorithm in place that is scanning for emails in the process of backing it up. And in the case that our algorithm lets us know that this is a valid credit card number, we will present it to you here, where you can see from who it was sent to where, and clicking on the email will actually show you the contents. And we will redact the information because we're trying to solve you guys' problems, not create you guys more problems by showing the full credit card information. But the information here is sufficient enough for you as an administrator to take next steps. You may want to contact the user themselves or who it was sent to in order to limit the exposure of this sensitive data. And that covers the security functionality of our solution. Now, I want to quickly touch upon backup because while backup may sound boring, it is a must-have for any single organization, especially for cloud data, which can be easily modified, which can be easily encrypted and deleted. You want to make sure you have backup available. Now, we provide backup of all the key services that you can see here: Gmail, Drive, Calendars, Contact, and Sites. And we have functionality that allows you to choose whether you want to back up your data 1 time a day or 3 times a day. And let's dive into further as to how the backup looks. So here we're looking at the backup of Victor Smith's Gmail in this case. And you can see, all the structures are upheld, all the emails are here, and you are able to preview them if you're interested as well. What makes us different, and Dan mentioned this in the presentation as well, is that we don't just do a regular file backup. We don't say, here's 10 emails, Spin, back them up with no order. We back up with metadata as well. So we're encompassing all this metadata that you see in the labels, the label structures, the folder placements in Drive, everything, the sharing permissions, it's all encompassed in the backup. And what that allows us to do is version back. So each backup that we do also creates a version, which is what the specific G Suite service itself looked like at this time. For example, right now I'm looking at what Victor Smith's Gmail looked like exactly at August 21st, 2020, when the backup occurred. Now, what this allows me to do is, let's say I have a user who was being terminated and they completely deleted all their data on this date. I can head back to a different day, so August 19th, let's say. And I will now see what Victor Smith's email looked like at the specific time and backup. What I'm able to do is to restore this data back to this user or to another user in my organization, if need be, in case this user is being terminated and you want to maintain all the data by restoring it to someone else. Or I can even download the data to a local device. And this will immediately begin the extraction process. Now, I know I'm running a bit out of time, so I'll quickly cover some of the others as well. So the same way, the same functionality that you have for Gmail, you have for Drive and all the other solutions as well. So you have the ability to version back to a different date. You have the same folder structures that you have in Drive itself. And what you're able to do is restore the data back to yourself, a different user, or even download it locally to a local device. So going back to the dashboard, I'll leave it at that. What you're able to see again is all the services that we protect, how much data they're taking up, the backup history, and a summary of the security solution. So how many high-risky applications we detected, medium risk, low risk, any items that are shared with third-party users, and any credit card numbers we detected. So this is all meant for you guys and for administrators to be able to log in and quickly understand what's going on and find out more information if they need to. But here is the Spin1 solution for security and backup of your G Suite data. And I'll pass it back to you, Colin.
Excellent. Thank you very much, David. That's a great 20-minute fast and furious demo. It seems like there's a number of different areas of the product. It seems I guess there's two main areas: the backup and the recovery, and then the cybersecurity side. I did see that we have a couple of questions, and I'm sure more will spin off on that. Marcus, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so in that credit card piece in which you said
Mhm.
that you could detect and then possibly do some remediation, there are obviously going to be segments of your population that would have legit reason to have. It's different if they're mailing it, but if it's just to be like, hey, it's in the GDoc, there are legitimate reasons why finance specifically may have credit card information in a GDoc that's just internal. So is it possible to exempt some people from that detection? Otherwise, you could end up with thousands of legitimate things that you don't really need to know about.
So for those situations, what we allow those teams to tell us to do is to disable the preview of any items in Spin. So you saw here how we were able to preview emails, for example, and that may cause some concerns as well for larger organizations, right? So that can be easily disabled. Now, with regards to the credit card number detection piece, we don't show the full credit card numbers. It is redacted, but all we do is pick it up. In the case of exempt, that would require some customization of security policies, but it is possible, not available today.
All right, cool. We have another question from Caleb.
What format is it downloaded in? Okay, that's a really good question as well. Is that your question, Caleb?
That's my question. Yeah, thanks.
Sounds good. So right now it's in its native format. So Gmail in Inbox, Drive in whatever it is, DocX or spreadsheet. What we're working on is making it easier for our customers, and this is actually a very popular ask, which is going to be released soon. Is converting all this to .pst. .pst is the easiest, and everyone prefers that way.
All right, who was next with a question? I think it was Alex, wasn't it?
Yep, I see Alex. Aside from the current state, do you provide any insight into object sharing? Can you elaborate on that question, please, Alex?
I don't know if an object's being accessed by an unexpected number of people, or any other insight into someone's been added and removed. I don't know if there's any AI around the sharing itself, or if it's just a view into it.
Sorry, you guys go ahead.
Behavior detection.
Right.
Behavior detection. So we do provide some behavior detection, as you guys saw in our domain audit tool, where we're able to detect when a mass amounts of files are being downloaded or transferred. And these are thresholds that you guys can set as administrators. For example, who's even deleting files from their Google Drive completely. And we're working on adding more functionality to it. Currently, as to who's accessing a large number of files, we do not have, but we can detect all this here. For example, who's installing applications, is there a brute force attack happening on this person's G Suite account, whether they're sending a lot of data to the trash bin, and where they're removing the data from the trash bin, or even removing applications. So you as an administrator have all these tools available, and you can create notifications to your email, to your Slack, for only the incidents that you deem important for your organization.
Great. Jared, do you want to ask your question?
I can do that. So I guess I have probably 3 questions.
Okay.
One of the ones we always ask vendors is, does your app support SAML or OpenID Connect, Okta, that type of thing? Because that's one of our security requirements. So I guess you can answer that first.
Yeah, definitely. We do offer sign-in with Google. We have the SAML connection. We are partnered with Google and Microsoft, actually. So, and Azure, Microsoft, AWS, and GCP.
Okay. And as far as from a backup storage perspective, is it strictly a bring your own storage only, like you bring AWS storage, or do you guys supply storage? Can you supply storage, or how does that part work?
We actually prefer us offering the storage. That is by default. So
okay.
When a customer is registering, it takes 2 minutes. We own all the buckets, and they just choose whether they want to be stored. And we prefer this because we're able to make the scan of the data. We're able to parse through the data in order to better provide the security functionality that we do.
Okay.
So it's all included in the cost. No extra setting up needed from the administrator besides installing the app for the organization.
Okay.
What if I prefer a bucket?
though, if I prefer to bring
then
the
we
bucket.
go with your route. Yeah. Some people, and for also compliance reasons, some organizations need to have their own data stored in their own buckets, and we do support that as well.
Okay, and then I think the last question I had is, do you, and I think some others on this call probably had that too, is do you support API access so we can automate, and how's your documentation on that front and so forth?
Not yet. Currently, we do not support API documentation. Actually, we haven't gotten too many requests of it because downloading, you never see too many people downloading data nowadays. It's mostly being restored back to the cloud services themselves. And downloading does take longer because it is being exported to a local device. But at the moment, we do not provide API integration.
Okay.
All right, well, that answers Michael's question. It was asking about API, if there was a way to trigger a backup. Yeah, would that be something that you would consider? Obviously, a lot of us here always look for API access for any SaaS application that we take up.
Definitely. Our goal is to make it as easy as possible for administrators to be able to manage their cloud data. And once we do research, we find out more about the specific ways to implement this, what specific API access to give. We will implement it down the line.
Okay. All right, Dominic, you've got a couple of questions.
So you've shown the activity and the log parts. Are those based just on the audit logs of the particular tool we use, or G Suite in this case?
Are you speaking about this activity on the left panel?
Yeah, I think that's the one where everything is. No, then it's not that one.
Were you talking about
the domain audit? Yeah, that's
yes.
probably, yeah, that's one. This is just based on the audit logs from G Suite.
That's correct. So we pull that information and we translate it into a very readable format, as you can see.
So you cannot detect copy events to a different shared drive, for example, the customer don't own, because those are not logged in the G Suite audit logs.
Right, it's limited to the logging capabilities of G Suite, just like everything else is.
That's correct.
Obviously. Those are just, maybe you do send additional magic here, but probably no one can. So there, on the backup side or encryption side of things, you've spoken about a tool that an app has to have access to G Suite to encrypt my stuff.
Yes.
What if I have FileStream installed?
Good question. So that's also an application, right? That's also an app. I consider it an application myself. And let me break it down. So ransomware attacks can happen in two scenarios. Either it happens locally and you have FileStream and it goes from locally, FileStream, Google Drive. Or it can happen in the cloud itself. You install an application, you grant it access, and therefore it encrypts your data. So in both situations, there's an application involved. So we have FileStream and just a regular third-party application, which both have access to your data. In the case that it is FileStream, what we do is we revoke access to FileStream from the sync that it has to your Google Drive, which will again stop that spread.
Is this on a per user basis or is this domain based?
This is on a per user basis. So one of the things that we focus on most is limiting any downtime possible for these organizations. So we're not going to delete a user from G Suite. We're not going to suspend them or anything. We are just simply revoking access and then scanning and restoring any data that's needed.
Okay. Good.
Very nice.
And the other questions have been answered as well.
Excellent. All right, Rose, I believe you got a couple of questions.
Yep. So you stated a couple of things that are coming soon. Can you talk about the approximate speed of your development cycle for new features from planning to general release?
So we work on an agile methodology, and we go by the highest priority tasks. We have set up structures. We have our engineering and QA department set up working tirelessly. And actually, what you see most of the stuff here, this risk assessment and Chrome extension management. Chrome extension management was released in a month of planning, analysis, and testing and release. So our engineering department is able to move very fast. They're able to release these features upon request, and we sit down, assess them by priority, and make them into a reality.
Sounds good. And then when was the last time the UI for this tool was updated?
That's a good question. So this is the UI that has been but we're in the next week. We're actually going to be in the next week or two. This is going to be completely redeveloped. So if you guys want to check back in, I recommend checking our YouTube channel because we will be posting videos of the updates.
We should have waited.
That's all my questions.
That's actually, I like the question, the timing itself as well. I see a new question by Michael in the chat. How quickly are new apps files detected? What's the sync schedule? So we work based off on push notifications from G Suite. So we'll be able to detect this as soon as it had near real time, I call it, because I cannot call it real time. So every 1 to 3 seconds, we are able to make that scan and understand whether there's new API calls by news applications or not. And once we detect these applications, we provide them here and we continue with our assessment, which takes a couple of minutes as well.
Okay, and I think Marcus has got a couple of questions as well.
Okay, shall I read it?
Out, Marcus?
Yeah. So basically, just you've been around since 2016. How many how many ransomware attacks has this platform actually prevented?
Good question. So we started with ransomware protection in 2018. Before that, we were only doing backup. And the reason for that was because ransomware was not an issue at that time, especially in the cloud. I want to rephrase that. Ransomware was not an issue in the cloud because they were not able to get access to it. They were not able to encrypt it. So starting in 2018, we detected that focus of the shift from local to cloud data. And that's where we began implementing our ransomware protection solutions. And we've actually stopped around, I can't give you the exact number, tens of ransomware
ballpark
attacks.
is fine.
Yeah, 10, I would say in 10 to 20 ransomware attacks. And then the second part.
Yeah, so I saw that in terms of some of your process works on like scanning the O365 or G Suite environment for various stuff. This is usually the elephant in the room when we talk to a vendor, but how do you actually charge for your functionality? Is it I pay for everything? I get backup in this ransomware attack, or is it separate? How's the pricing breakdown?
So I'll touch upon it, but Dan is the main man to answer this question. We work for the customer. So we're providing you with full flexibility on choosing which users are protected, which users are not. Our solution is based on a licensing model. So you assign the users, you assign licenses to the users that you need protection for, and you don't assign to those that you don't. Dan, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah. So am I off mute? I don't know.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I talk for 5 minutes and I'm on mute. So you hit it pretty well on the head. Typically, what we're going to do though is, like you said, we're going to allow you to pick and choose what you want to have there. Now, if you're getting ransomware protection, we're going to say, hey, you're going to need backup because they kind of work in tandem. But as far as you can parcel out backup, or if you guys are just looking at the risk assessment tool, you can do that as well. Again, we're happy to work with you guys or, with the end customer to kind of build a build to fit kind of model, what's going to actually solve the issues that you're facing, not just throw a license at you and say, hey, there might be some stuff you're not using.
To clarify, you have a per user licensing model, not a data licensing model. And you're doing tiered licensing based on the functionality that you need per user. So you can mix and match licenses within a single tenant. Yes?
So the last part, not of it yet, again. So you choose the plan
so
for
all users have to have the same license.
Yes.
That's great.
Okay, one last question in regards to the licensing. So you primarily showed us G Suite, but like you said, you can also do Office 365 as well. For that license, does it cover one person for both? If I happen to be an organization that has Office 365 and G Suite, does it cover both, or do I have to have one per user per cloud storage environment?
Yep, they're completely different, right? There's different data in G Suite, different data in Drive. So for us to be able to protect each user requires a license in the organization that's in. So if they're separate in G Suite and on Office, they would require a separate account, firstly, because the domain administrator needs to set up different accounts for one G Suite, one Office, and they would require licenses for both as well. Now, thinking down the line, let me give you guys a sneak peek into the future roadmap. We're here to protect cloud data. So we're not stopping at G Suite and Office. We're going to be expanding a lot. Like for example, what we have in research is Salesforce. And once we are able to release these solutions, these backups, and these security functionalities for all of them, what we'll work on is a cross-platform. So the ability to manage both your G Suite, both your Office, and all not SharePoint, sorry, Salesforce, all from one platform. And after during that, it will convert, Marcus, to your point. We will be able to make a one licensing model instead of a multi-tiered thing.
Okay, sounds great. Just two more questions, one from Caleb and then one from myself, both about backups. Caleb, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, so in other backup cloud providers for G Suite, sometimes they don't do deduplication. So our footprint is twice or three times, or a lot larger in their application than it is in G Suite, and then we're charged accordingly. So does your application do deduplication like G Suite does? So we're not having multiple copies of files everywhere and having large footprints?
Yes, and that's a big worry for us too. No, we're dealing with all the data, so the less we can worry about it. But no, we don't want to cause you guys too much confusion. So what happens is when we're restoring data, for example, back to the Gmail itself, what we do first is make a scan of the organization, of the user's Gmail, detect for the data. If it's not there, then we will insert it. If it is there, we will not restore it and duplicate it again.
Okay, we'll add one other question, but my question was going to be about the backups and also the activity log, where you could see if a user had done an action like downloading a file. I have seen with some other backup solutions that Google actually records their backup as a download. So if you look in the logs, it looks like thousands of users are downloading millions of files all the time. It's the backup provider doing a backup, and you can't whitelist that out of the logs. Do you automatically remove or your own activity, so only the true file download is detected?
Yes, yeah. So again, we're partnered with Google, so we were able to work with them on getting those removed. So most of the processes, especially downloading and transferring, is manually performed by the user themselves. Okay. And we're able to filter that out and only present that information to them.
Okay, all right, great. We'll have the very last question from Marcus, and then we'll do a little round robin close up.
Yeah, so you just talked about how on the roadmap you have Salesforce, but I think the one that came to mind was like, where are Dropbox and Box in terms of your roadmap for the future?
Good question. So our main priority right now, after fully developing, after fully enforcing the security and productivity of G Suite and Office, our main focus is going to be on share Salesforce next. Following that, we will sit down and do research on the next, but Dropbox is always on top of the list. It's just Salesforce takes priority over it does.
All right, great. So thank you very much for the demo. I know we've still got a few more questions coming in, but we can, I'm sure Dan and David will be around afterwards. We can ask them. What I wanted to do now from our panelists, and I don't know if you can, thank you. I can see everybody who's here, and even some people have slipped in the back door while the presentation was on. So we've got a couple more faces, which is good to see. Just a quick round robin of in a completely hypothetical and non-contractual way. If you were setting up your own brand new operation and had a need, do you think in very short sentence is this something that would fill a need for you? And I think we will go from Dominic, Chris, Jared, Michael, Marcus, Caleb, Alex, Rose, and then Steve in that order, and then myself. That's how you guys are on my screen. So Dominic, thoughts?
I am pretty interested even in real terms, so we should loop up afterwards because I'm working for a Google Cloud partner as well, and we do G Suite resales, so we should really loop up for some solutions here. Excellent. We'll put you in the hypothetical yes column then. I should really have a tally, maybe if
Just forward on the screen. Chris?
Yeah, I think it'd be in the hypothetical yes column. Take a look at it a little deeper.
Jared?
Yeah, I'm also in the hypothetical yes column. This is actually something that just came up this week of finding a backup provider, and we know that's been on our agenda, but the the ransomware specifically was brought up, and I don't know that of another vendor that does what you guys do. So very interested to me.
Excellent. I see Dominic's being our little scoreboard here. Michael?
Yeah, I think the ransomware and backup solutions are really cool. I haven't seen the ransomware stuff at least anywhere else, and backup stuff, is pretty popular. In terms of the Drive and Office file management, the Better Cloud, the company I work for, does some of that already. So technically, we have something for it. But yeah, ransomware and backup's great. So you can put me somewhere in the middle, I guess.
You've just started up your own startup, so we're doing.
Yeah, that's right. SaaSOps. Okay, so for SaaSOps, I'll give you a yes.
Okay, Marcus.
So I am the person that comes and rains on this parade. So I would probably lean towards no. I mean, I agree with everyone. The ransomware piece is I'm not seeing anyone else do it, but I do have a concern with that licensing model. Like, it just seems a little bit too complicated, and the fact that most organizations don't have G Suite in something else. So if there was some way for me to like pay for it and not feel like I hate it when I feel like I'm being double tapped from a product. So that's the feeling I got. And from a technical perspective, it looks great. But that money piece is always the elephant in the room, and that kind of stops. That kind of stops me right there.
Okay, well, we'll put you down in the no column then at the moment, just so you go. Okay, Caleb?
Yeah, so I am interested enough that I already have an email for a free trial. Yeah, I like it. But I agree with Marcus. It comes down to cost. I already have vendors that do these things separately. So if you can do them the same for the price, then it's kind of a no-brainer for G Suite anyway. I don't have two tenants like Marcus does. I just have G Suite. So yeah.
Cool. Alex?
There we go. Yeah, like Caleb said, we already have vendors for backup, and so I'm definitely interested in adding value there if the licensing model makes sense. And yeah, we're probably not as common, but we have G Suite and an Office presence. So yeah, if they consider licensing to include since those are your only two products right now, you may want to consider that as a package deal. Yeah, I'm definitely interested.
All right, cool. Rose?
I'm going to be with Marcus and rain on the parade a little bit. So I'll say up front that I'm always a little bit skeptical of backup products, especially because as being a G Suite organization, we have access to Vault, and we don't need backups very often. The other thing I'll say is, yes, the licensing model is a kind of an issue, I think, for me and some others. I'm the merger and acquisitions girl. So like my company has gone through 5 mergers and acquisitions, and it's made me very aware of the complications that can come with licensing models that are based per user, per app, or things like that. So because we have a lot of duplication across our environment, and we will continue to have that for a long time. If I was starting my own company tomorrow, I would say like this would be on my products to watch. I definitely have some issues with the licensing, have some issues with the UI, but it sounds like you guys are aware of those problems. And so this would be similar to many of the SaaS companies where I would kind of like sign up for the newsletter and like like watch what's happening in the future, and then 6 months to a year down the road, make an inquiry if things were improving.
Excellent. So Dominic wants to know which column, the yes, the no, or in the middle.
It's going to be a no from me.
No. All right. Okay. And then Steve?
No for me.
No for you. Okay. Anything?
Well, so I mean, I gave it a little bit of a look. I wasn't watching it entirely, so I probably didn't give it its full justice. But when I think about backup ransomware for G Suite environment, those things don't come to mind in terms of third-party solutions. I've got my files in Google in the cloud. How are they going to get ransomware if people aren't accessing my local machine? That's just not going to happen. So first of all, my new company, everything has access to the browser. There's nothing on the machine. It's Chromebooks. There's no risk of ransomware. If for whatever reason a file does get encrypted, I've got the version control in the G Suite where I can just say, run a command, delete the last version of the file, boom, we're back to normal, we're all set and done. I can do that in a few seconds. I think, the DLP is on enterprise as well for the security and that. So I don't know. I think some organizations might find it useful. There's definitely use cases for it, but for me personally, I would probably not find use and value in it.
All right. Thank you for the feedback. So that's a no. And I'll hypothetically, if I was setting up a new startup, it would probably be a yes and a sort of a yes to watch to have on the list of applications to consider. Currently you do have different applications that provide similar or different services. And the one thing that we can have a whole other discussion another day about backups in G Suite. I do like backups in G Suite because, even Vault say that Vault is not a backup provider. And I know now they have the archive license, which is cheaper. As soon as you delete that Google account to free up that license, you lose that data, and a backup solution is often priced cheaper. But we could have a whole other discussion about that. And maybe we could get some backup providers on and do a SolveTank on backup providers. But I want to thank Spin.ai, Dan and David, for coming on and doing the demo and spending an hour with us. And thank you for everybody else joining as well. And Dominic's got the final scores. What are the scores there, Dominic?
First, I have to unmute myself. So it's 6 yes, 1 Michael, and 3 no.
Oh, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Excellent. So it's about 60% of people were hypothetically interested, and those hypothetical POs will be in the hypothetical posts later on. So
I'll talk to my hypothetical manager and tell him my hypothetical forecast. They'll love that. Like, hypothetically, I'm doing 3x my number this quarter. Realistically, we're going to talk about that. But yeah, thank you so much for having us. I know, Dominic, you'd said maybe to sync up after. You had a couple more questions. Caleb, I think you signed up for a free trial, right? Did I hear that correctly? So I'll go looking for your stuff in Salesforce, and we can kind of connect. Jared, you had mentioned that you guys are looking in there, so you can get all my information from Colin. Reach out. I'm happy to sit down with you, kind of learn a little bit more about your guys' unique situation. But again, thank you guys so much. It's been awesome being on here, and awesome being the inaugural SolveTank. It's great.
Excellent.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you guys for the amazing questions too. It really creates something to think about as well. So
yeah, thanks for walking into this.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks
Brave souls. Brave souls.
Now we just need to cue the outro music. So unfortunately, we don't have a special effects department. So
we'll do it live.
Yeah, or the rights to any copyrighted tune. So we'll have to make up our own. So I'll let if Michael can press stop, because the last time I messed up pressing stop on the recording.